Hey guys, another one for our Wheels in Japan playlist on our mini-series of crazy drives in Japan.
So guys, everything you see in this video is actually illegal to do in Japan. However, because it's really common and lots of people do it, lots of people do it. That's Japanese thinking. If everybody does it, it must be okay. So kids standing up, no seatbelt, standing between the front seats, talking to their parents, really, really common. We see it all the time. We know people who do it. We asked a lady about it once and she said, oh, he doesn't like to wear a seatbelt, right? About her 5-year-old that likes to stand between the front seats of the car. So because lots of people do it, lots of people do it. We also know people who insist their kids wear seatbelts. We do know people that do that too. But this free-ranging kids in the car thing is super, super common. So lots of people do it. So lots of people do it. She's actually on the phone too, by the way. She's actually looking at her phone. As is this guy, which is pretty scary when you consider he's driving a really huge fuel truck. Isn't that scary? And we see that all the time. We've showed you that lots of times. Fuel truck drivers driving around looking at their phones. Truck drivers in general doing it. And we've showed you, again, lots and lots of times we've showed you truck drivers staring at their phones while they're driving their trucks. And it has bad results. Now and again, a truck will go through a pedestrian crossing and kill some people, or really commonly out on the highways, they'll have a run into the back of a whole lot of cars and you get 5 or 6 cars all written off and a couple of people die. It's really, really common. And they report on it. They have signs up saying, don't do it, but they don't police it. The chances of getting caught, I mean, we showed you once a cop on a scooter catching people for using their phones while driving. But that's the only time we've seen them doing it. One cop once on a scooter, years ago, we showed you. He was catching people using their phones, but you rarely see it. So the chances of being caught using your phone while you're driving is really, really remote, which is why they do it. They're not worried about getting caught. There is a law and there is a substantial penalty, but chance of getting caught is really remote. Look at this guy drifting across and drifting back. We see this all the time too because he's on the phone. He's looking at his phone. He's drifting across and he's drifting back on a highway. So it'd be really easy. If you were a cop, it would be so easy. I mean, as you can see from these videos, how easy it is to catch these guys doing it, but they just don't seem to bother. So every time someone dies as a result, they're reported on the news, and oh, isn't that terrible? And we really shouldn't do that, and they keep doing it. The same story for bikes. They're not supposed to do it. There's a law and there's a penalty for doing it. But again, you never see cops standing in busy places like this city scene where lots of people are doing it. You never see cops out there stopping people doing it. They just all cruise around doing it. Everyone does it. Well, lots of people do it, so lots of people do it. Not a problem. And again, you do see the stories on the news about people using their phones while riding a bike and getting hit by a bus and that sort of stuff. Everyone acts surprised. It's a funny thing, you get these silly behaviours in Japan that happen all the time and no one they notice it and they comment on it and then nothing changes. This guy at least he stopped to use his phone, but he's actually stopped at a stop sign, put his hazards on, he's sitting there on the phone. Which is better than this guy who stopped in the intersection. And again, we've showed you this lots and lots of times, really common. They sort of don't see that white line that we're supposed to stop before as being sort of relevant, and they sort of cruise out in the middle of the intersection. Oh, how scary is this? Again, truck driver. Truck drivers are the scariest just because of the weight they're carrying, Too close to the cars in front. Oh yeah, bike riding along in the dark. So a bit of two-wheeled madness here, bike riding along in the dark. And this guy doing the strange dragging the feet on the ground thing. We see this all the time. How scary is this? Anyone who's ever ridden a bike, imagine if something happens, someone swerves or he has to stop quickly or hits a rock or something and he's got one leg hanging down. Imagine that. Anyway, there's another stopping in the middle of the intersection. Bikes do it a lot. They come up between the two lanes to the front of the red light, to the front of the traffic, and they'll stop in the intersection, which is sort of pointless because they've already gone through the red light, basically. But anyway, that's what they do. Aggressive drivers are pretty rare, but we do see them. So Black Van Man here was lane changing all over the place, cutting in between cars, cutting people off. and he's obviously on his way to work. Some of them seem to think if it's a work-related thing that they can be in a big hurry and push past people. And this guy was trying to bully people to move over, so he was riding on their tails really close to get them to move out of his way. As you can see, he's on a highway and he keeps hitting his brakes, which means obviously he's too close, isn't he? If he was driving properly, he wouldn't need to touch his brakes. But yeah, he was dangerous, that guy. And again, now and again, someone stuffs up. They all run into each other because they all drive too closely to each other, and then they all act surprised. So, oh, this is funny. Aggressive black van man driving along, being aggressive to everybody else, and then another aggressive black van man turned up and started to try to bully the other guy out of the way, which is pointless. This was peak hour traffic in Nagoya, so there's just a constant line of traffic there. You're not going to bully them all out of your way. It's a waste of time. But doesn't stop them doing it. Anyway.
More videos coming soon.